Welcome back, questing champions, to another episode of For Azeroth with me, Garrett Weinzierl, and her, Jocelyn Moffett. And no, once again, we did not pod fade. We've just been on vacation, separately. Weird timings where it became like a 2-week stretch, but we're back.
We are back, and we warned you.
We did.
to be fair.
I don't think we warned them that we were going to possibly move recording, since we have another show now that covers Game of Thrones, and it's a bit time sensitive, so we need to record on Mondays, which is when we usually record this show. So, at least for the near future, expect For Azeroth to have a Friday release date, at least for probably the next 2 months. Could extend beyond that. But also, by the way, Embrace the Spoilers. Go and subscribe to that and get your Game of Thrones spoilers on. And if you don't like that, wait until that is over and then subscribe to it for the Indiana Jones spoilers, because that's going to be a lot of fun.
You're so excited about that.
Yeah, well, it's not so much like I'm excited, mostly for me. Like, I know you haven't seen it before, but it's been so long since I've watched Indiana Jones at this point. It has been a while. So I'm really looking forward to going back, because every time I watch those movies, I notice something new, because my memory of it, even though I've seen it since, turning 20 and then since turning 30. Actually, I haven't seen it since turning 30. But whatever the case is, so much of my memory of it is locked up in my childhood memory. So every time I rewatch it, I'm like, oh my God, this was so much more adult in its themes and its suggestions than I ever noticed as a kid. Beyond just the violence and terrifying, face-melting Nazis. But whatever the case is, we're here to talk World of Warcraft. There's been quite a bit of WoW going on, and there was a Q&A while I was gone.
It was actually yesterday.
Oh, it was yesterday. I thought this was while I was gone. So I just straight up missed it, and I'm a bad World of Warcraft fan.
Well, I mean, these Q&As, they're kind of... They handpick the questions ahead of time. So there's a lot of stuff that they either talk about too much, or they just they have a lot of similar questions in a row about the same thing, so they're repeating themselves many times. I feel like the first one that they did was very boom, knowledge bomb, boom, knowledge bomb, boom, knowledge bomb, and then this one was yeah, okay, I don't care. Yeah, you just said that. Okay, yeah, moving on. Come on, guys, move on, please. Just, go. So even I was looking at through all the transcripts afterwards, because I thought I missed stuff, because I was running time walking at the same time with this in the background, and I was like, oh no, I didn't really miss anything. Okay. So, I mean, they've given us some information about what's coming in 7.3, including a lot of catch-up mechanics, which is really cool. Although I will say, we're going to talk about it a little bit later, but I switched to my Shadow Priest, and there's already quite a lot of catch-up mechanics in the game. So they're adding even more, including tokens that you can get that are going to upgrade your champions to 900 right away. So you're not going to have to go 5 eye levels at a time for your mission table stuff, because that's the current thing that's slowing me down on the priest.
That's fantastic, because on my main, I've neglected champions. It's not something I find all that interesting, and the rewards that you get from it this time around compared to Warlords of Draenor are pretty lackluster.
Yeah, it seems like they really scaled it back.
Yeah, because I was getting raid gear back in Draenor, which was great, because it meant I didn't have to play Draenor. But I've neglected it entirely, so I'm struggling on my main to get a lot of my champions up to 900. I think I might only have 3 at the moment that are at eye level 900.
I think I have I have all of my hunter, all of my paladin champions are at 900. I don't think any of my mage or any of my shadow priest champions are, though.
Wow.
But I have 2 characters with all 8 or 9 or however many they have now, all at level 900.
Joss, you crazy.
I play too much. Sorry.
You crazy.
Well, it's because of the app. It's because if you have the Legion app, you can just sit there and it... Boom! Notification on your phone. Champion armaments are ready. Okay, and then you just push the button and make more.
My problem.
Every time I lock in, I have all kinds of eye level gear.
My problem with that is when I start using the app, because of the infrequency with which I do dailies, I run out of garrison resources. So then the app is just useless.
See, you just have to, also play.
Well, I have quite a bit. I actually, so you left the week before I left, so I had a Joce free week in World of Warcraft, which meant I got to sit in on a full clear run of Time Walking Black Temple, which was incredible, by the way. Also,
was it? Oh, I'm so mad I missed that.
I had a really good time. It was a lot of fun. I apparently suck at the Illidan fight. I died during all of our attempts, including the one where we killed him.
I love that happened, though, that you died, that there were multiple attempts. Like, I love that you did just, like, walk in and then just blow everything out of the water. I'm glad that it was challenging.
The second damn boss, the giant infernal thing, his name I'm forgetting at the moment, out in the courtyard.
I have no idea.
We died multiple times trying that, mostly because we didn't clear enough trash. And you have to run a lot in that fight, and the mobs have just insane freaking aggro radiuses, so eventually we just cleared the whole damn courtyard within about a mile of the boss, and then that was easy to do. But that was absolutely incredible. And then also, while you were gone, I hit my freaking 4-piece tier 20 from a particularly lucrative evening in the raid. And that was my last time raiding for what I guess was the last almost 2 weeks now. So thank you guys for the 4-piece tier 20. Sorry I totally bailed on you for the last 2 weeks.
It's fine. We know you weren't feeling well, so it's all good. But I have 3-piece. So basically, I switched to Shadow Priest for raiding because I didn't feel like I was contributing enough. I was always third on the list of our healers, and not like third by a little bit, like third by a lot. And I know with healers, and I've talked about it before, like you can't necessarily go by numbers, because sometimes like people who have a lot of like AoE healing or like heals over time and all that kind of stuff, like sometimes they overheal, plus they can just hit so many more people. I have big heals, but mine are single target, so it's like I heal for a really big amount, but I have all of that cast time, and so it's one of those things where it's a different style of healing. The other 2 healers in our raid are a priest and a druid, which are very, very, very strong healing classes. I love playing the pally, but I was just like, I was so demoralized, and I felt like I was doing so poorly. So I was just like, you know what? I know part of it was that I switched. Excuse me. I got a legendary cape that was supposed to be one of the best ones, that was like built around using Light of the Martyr a lot, and I never really, like, I had a rotation going that I felt really good about, and then I tried to switch over to incorporating Light of the Martyr in with that, and then I was just like, man, I just can't get the hang of this. So, I mean, I just kept switching my rotation based on like class changes and legendary drops, and I just never got back into the original groove that I was in with the Paladin. So I felt like I was letting everybody down. So at least for our normal runs, I've switched over to my Shadow Priest, and I have 3 of my 4 tier pieces now. So, and that was from one run. The Shadow Priest was actually got geared up pretty quickly. So yeah. And I've now unlocked my 3rd relic slot, which is another one of the catch-up mechanics that's coming, is when you hit 110, you'll automatically have the 3rd relic slot, so you don't have to go through the whole class hall thing. Although they've even shortened the class hall thing, because I remember we did the Priest Order Hall campaign not too long ago. Yeah. In terms of covering it on this show, and I just ran through it, and like the second wave of dungeons, there were like 3 or 4 dungeons that you had to run. You don't have to run them anymore. I only had to run Eye of Ashara. So, and that was because it was kind of integral to the story, right? You had to go get that lens to give to Prophet Velen. Right. So, like without that would, you know, kind of wreck the story. But the other ones were just like, well, we wait, go defeat these, you know, champions of the Legion in these 4 random dungeons. So they just took it out. And I was like, whoa, this is actually much faster. Nice. Well, plus all those little missions that used to take like between 8 and 12 hours each, they've turned down to 1 hour. So everything is much faster to work through the order halls, but at the same time, like, it's still something you have to do. So you're just not going to have to do it anymore with your alts. So
that's good to hear. That's good to hear. I still have that little itch for a warrior now. Ever since we got that question.
Warrior now?
No, ever since we got that question a few episodes ago, that was, you know, like, you know, what's your favorite thing to play? And it's like, if I'm being truly honest with myself, I just love playing warrior.
It's very similar to Death Knight, isn't it?
No, not at all, because they actually have movement abilities, you know, as opposed to none whatsoever. Okay, there's one for Death Knight, but it's the worst in the game. I've swapped on Holy I haven't had a chance to try it in our raid, but it's working really well for me in Raid Finder, doing a lot more damage than I was before. And even though I barely know what I'm doing, Veil is keeping my head above water.
That's how I felt on the Shadow Priestess. I was like, I'm pretty sure I know the rotation, but just having that extra, like, boom, this is the spell you should be doing now, notification is really helpful.
Yeah, because I wasn't playing Unholy, so I didn't do any research at all. And I got my four-piece tier 20, and I can't remember who I was talking to in Raid that night. They're like, dude, the four-piece is insane on Unholy. So I swapped specs, and turns out the four-piece set bonus on tier 20 for Unholy Death Knights is it reduces the cooldown of your army by 6 seconds every single time you use a rune. So it's per rune. So like if I use an ability that uses 2, that's 12 seconds immediately off the cooldown. So it basically means I can have Army of Dead up twice in a boss fight. And plus the first bonus, the 2-piece bonus, increases your damage while Army is active. So it's pretty ridiculous. Also, I'm
nodding my head like I understand.
Yeah,
I've never played it on Holy Death Knight. But yeah, of course, Army, yeah.
Army of the Dead. Army of the Dead. All the dead things come up and attack your target.
Okay.
Yeah, but whatever the case is, it's so much better than freaking Frost. Oh my god. Which makes me sad.
Yeah, you've been unhappy with Frost for a long time.
Yeah, thematically I love Frost, but the Breath of Sindragosa build makes me want to vomit. I know it's getting changed. I know on the Argus PTR, Frost DK is very different now, and they're trying to incentivize other ways of play. So I may go back. We'll see what happens. I don't play on the PTR. I don't want to spoil things for myself, but I'm anxious to try a new form of Frost that doesn't involve playing perfect or guess what, you're the worst DPS ever.
Yeah, that seems like a very fine line.
Yeah, there's zero room for issues. So also I finally got my class mount, Jocelyn.
Nice.
Kind of accidentally. I was just while working on my artifact power, because I had slacked on that. I was just doing a lot of dailies. I realized I was very close to getting my class mount. So I finally went and did that. And
right, because you need to be. It's been a while. I did it like literally day one. So you have to be revered with Legion Fall. Is that what it is, or you have to be exalted with?
It wasn't even the reputation that was the issue, because I've been exalted with them I think for a little while now. I just had avoided a bunch of the quest lines you have to complete. Like I didn't have my marks of the Centinax.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't have my marks of the Centinax.
Because they have the whole like kill 100, find demons, find the treasure chest, all those weekly stupid quests. Yeah,
right, exactly. Like the Centinax thing. By the time I got around to it, no one was doing it anymore, and I was like, "Oh, this sucks to do alone." But then one day I just was like, "Screw it! I'm just gonna go grind it out," and I got it done relatively quickly. It actually wasn't that bad, and there was one other random person in the zone doing the same thing, so we became best friends.
Yeah.
So that actually helped to go by really quickly, and then I just kind of bored through all of the other quest lines that were required, and then bam, off on my mount quest. And so many folks tweeted and wrote in and were like, Garrett, what's wrong with you? If you're like a Death Knight and an Arthas fan, you need to go do this because the quest line's amazing. And I was like, oh, whatever, because the lead up to it was so stupid. It's like, here's a dragon, get a dragon and bomb things. But actually they were right. The quest is incredible. You go north of Northrend.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I was going to say, so I don't really care if you spoil it for me, but we should probably warn people just in case. But I want to know what this questline is, because obviously I saw the tweets and the emails, so I really want to know.
Yeah, you end
what was so crazy awesome. So spoilers, people, but Garrett's going to talk about the Death Knight class mount questline.
You get summoned to the top of Acheris to talk to a vision of the Lich King. So you go up there, and there's this whole like ghostly image of the Lich King sitting in the throne at the top of your class order hall, and he's talking to you, and he tells you that he had a vision, and you have to go to the northernmost point in Northrend. So I took the portal to Wormrest Temple and flew north, and you get there, and he tells you that he saw that Arthas felt this power north of Northrend that he was trying to claim. And as you're standing there and he's telling you this vision of like hundreds of Scourge frost walking across the ocean out into the kind of the abyss appears.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and then you do some other stuff. You go and torture some dragons at Wormrest Temple for information. You be your normal Death Knight dick self, and then you find out that there was like a great dragon fell north of Northrend, and that there is a glacier in this ongoing blizzard that is like ceaselessly ending north of Northrend, that you just need to fly into blindly and find the glacier. So you go and do that, and you end up in like a custom piece of land built for this quest line. It's this giant glacier north of Northrend, and you go out there, and there's feral scourge that are, like, no longer listen to the Lich King, and they just wave after wave are attacking you as you're exploring this glacier, and eventually you finally find the body of the fallen dragon, and you resurrect it.
That's really freaking cool, dude.
Yeah, it was sweet.
So you rezzed a dragon just like Arthas in the cinematic.
Yes, yeah, and they even give you like a custom little cinematic where you basically kind of have the same shot from the cinematic where your dragon is kind of behind you roaring, and it's delightful. It's cheesy because the in-game models don't look nearly as cool, but in my head, in a theater of my mind, it was amazing.
You are just now Arthas, and you're really happy about that.
Pretty much, yeah. I just took a page out of playing some pen and paper role-playing games and embellished what I was seeing with my brain.
Ugh, using brains, so weird.
Yeah, but it was absolutely incredible, and I don't think knowing what happens really diminishes the experience. So if you were like me and you found the grind kind of lame and it didn't seem worth it, if you're close, go frickin' do it. It's really awesome that we got our own little chunk of land to go and explore as part of this quest line.
Yeah, Paladin is still the only one that I've done, and the questline was kind of okay. I remember at the time everyone else being a lot more impressed with it than I was, and to be honest, I can't even tell you what the questline was off the top of my head. But I mean, and we've talked about it on the show before, I think it's really dumb that you have to get concordance in all your specs in order to unlock the ability to then buy all of your different tints of stuff. So, now, I don't know.
For the Paladin, do your different tints count as different mounts?
They do. They are different mounts, yeah.
Okay, that's interesting, because for the Death Knight, you just have the one, and it just changes color depending on what spec you're in. But it also, then, I guess you could argue that at least with the Paladin, it's harder to get the others, but it's working towards your mount account achievements.
That is true, and I mean, and I think I've said this before too. I think it's really weird how there are different, like how they did it differently for different classes. Like it's very similar to the hidden artifact appearances where I could just go buy them from a vendor on my hunter, and then other classes needed a specific drop from a specific boss in heroic Neltharian's lair. Like it's just like, so you have to grind for weeks hoping to get a drop, and I think monks were the same. They had to get a drop off of not Nathendra, but other dragons in the Emerald Nightmare raid. Like, it was really, really weird the way they did hidden artifact appearances, and they did the same thing again for mounts. So, yeah, some of them just change spec and they get a different color. So, I mean, the advantage of the Paladin is that I can now ride my Protection Paladin tint, which I like better because it's all purpley, and it matches with like my purple hammer and stuff, and I can ride that mount while I'm in my holy spec. So I get to kind of mix and match where you don't, like your frost tint is your frost tint is your frost tint, and you can't ride that dragon while you're in unholy. So, I mean, I get that there's advantages, but man, that was a freaking grind.
Yeah, I don't know. I think overall I like that they're not all the same. They're not handled exactly like evenly. I kind of dig that you have to do different things, and some are harder than others, because it reminds me of mount quests from vanilla in that way, because there were most classes just straight up didn't have mount quests, but paladins and warlocks did. And they were wildly different from one another, and they were very cool. And I even remember during, was it Lich King? It might have been Burning Crusade, but it was either BC or Lich King before they removed. I believe it's removed now, the Warlock Mount Quest line. I remember doing that with our roommate, and it was awesome. It was something I'd never done, and it was this old vanilla content, but it was very cool and very unique.
Yeah, so obviously stuff I've never seen. But,
right, and apparently you never will.
No,
which is sad.
I haven't done any of my other Mount Quest lines because I could now do Mage, Priest, and Hunter. So I really should just go and do my Hunter, but I got to the same, like, I'm trying to remember. I think I might have gotten to the Centenax farming on the Hunter, and I think I'm still at, like, do a bunch of world quests on my Shadow Priest. So I have a lot, I'm part way through on both of them, and everyone keeps telling me that the Priest mount is great, so And apparently the class mount questline, quote unquote, makes up a little bit for the order hall, because apparently a lot of priest mains were very upset that the paladins had to come and save them. Whereas for me, I thought it was super cool because I played through as a paladin first. So I thought, the two orders working together was amazing. And from the priest side, you get to go to Nisgara and you save all the paladins. And then because I actually knew who those paladin champions are, since I played through as a paladin, I was like, oh my god, like, we just saved their asses. These are like their highest ranking paladins. Like, they would have been like totally screwed without us. But if you never played the paladin side and you don't really know who these up until now secondary air quotes characters have been, then it might not have the same weight. And then you're just sitting in your order hall waiting for the paladins to come and save you. And it's like, it's not a back and forth if you don't understand the weight of those paladins who were captured on Nisgara. So I can see the complaint, but I thought it was super cool from both sides.
You're both from the same order. The paladins are just priests with heavy armor, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. So I don't know. I think it's. I like it too. I really like the interplay between those two orders quite a bit. Mm-hmm. But
so yeah, apparently the priest mount questline is really, really cool. So that might be the next thing I do.
I like the priest mount a lot. The weird owl, lion, cat thing. I dig it.
That's a really good way to describe it.
There we go. Before we move on, Joce, before I forget, I want to congratulate the winners of our Wowhead Premium codes. I did send those out, so if you haven't already, go and check your Twitter DMs. So congrats to Oppressed HS, Tigger with a bunch of numbers, Big Guy with a bunch of numbers, Picking an SN, Tacey Smith, Chaotic Toast, Reichsbrenner, me and my Twetter. That's weird. BDJY23 and Vic Baldry. Congratulations, you have all won Wowhead Premium codes, and they are in your Twitter DMs. And just so you know, one person that I chose to win wasn't following us, so I couldn't send you your code. So, just so you know, follow Faz Podcast.
I will say, congratulations so much to all of you guys. I think you're really going to enjoy it because I love Wowhead. We use Wowhead for a lot of different things on this show. They do a fantastic job, but holy hell, the ads on their site are freaking annoying. Wowhead is the number one only reason why I installed an ad blocker. I would have it open because I was trying to do quests and stuff, and then there would be these really annoying audio ads that would pop up, and they would scare the crap out of me, and they were always super loud. And I was just like, oh my god, Wowhead.
I experienced a similar thing. I believe they have since addressed it because I have complained to friends of mine that work at Wowhead, and they're like, oh yeah, no, we fixed that.
Well, and I mean, I installed an ad blocker and then felt kind of bad about it because how much I was using Wowhead. So I pay for a premium subscription myself now, so I don't see the ads. But removing ads from that site, it's good stuff, guys. It's good stuff.
It's amazing.
It's worth every penny.
Yeah, I know. I'm a big Wowhead fan, big Hearthhead fan. I used to write for Hearthhead. They still would let me. I just got too busy, by the way. It's not like I was fired. I just got too damn busy to keep writing. But big fans of those websites, and they're not sponsoring us, hence the complaining publicly about their ad system. But overall, fantastic tool. Go and check it out, wowhead.com, and consider picking up a premium code. We thank them for those codes. Those are badass. So, shall we move into the lore of this week, Jocelyn?
We absolutely should. And so the Hunter Order Hall is basically, it was the very first one that I did. And I'm really, really glad that it's the very first one that I did because there were moments in it that I felt were kind of had a lot of weight to them, were very true to the Hunter experience. Hunters haven't really been in the forefront of WoW lore so much. We end up with a few kind of characters that are names that we've heard before, but they're always part of something else. Like, the Paladin Order was something that has been around for so long, right? And there's so many stories of valor that the paladins have done and everything else, but hunters are very like lone wolfy, and they've just kind of like always been around to kind of help out others, and they've really not been at the forefront of like, oh yeah, look at that big band of hunters, they're gonna come save us from evil Garrosh or anything, you know, like you never hear about stuff like that. So I think they kind of built the hunter order out of basically nothing, and that's the story that they went with, is that up until now hunters have really been kind of nomadic, and they haven't been structured so much, and the structure that did exist was on the Broken Isles, so it was lost to a whole bunch of like mainland hunters basically. So now everyone's trying to come together, but it means that the story it's not as based in lore, it's not as kind of big and grand as some of the other order halls. So I'm glad I did it first, because I think if I had gone and done things like the paladin and priest stuff, and then if I'd gone and done like druids and all of that, and then gone to do hunter, I'd be like, WTF, this is terrible. But like I said, they did get the flavor of the class. They did a very, very good job of that. So we'll just jump right into it. Basically, the Hunter Order is called the Unseen Path. So it starts with the Oath of Service, and you in Dalaran are informed by Emerald that the Unseen Path is currently leaderless. And she thinks that you're going to be the best one, because she has kind of been watching, and that's going to be a theme. There are many hunters that just seem to stand back in the shadows and watch.
Hey, all right. For sales pitch number 1. You know who else just stands back and watches a lot and looks badass while doing it? Batman. Okay,
all right. So yeah, we're the Order of Batman.
The Hunter Order is basically multiple Batmans hanging out and high-fiving.
Well, it kind of is, actually, because they very much went with the theme of kind of watching from the shadows and helping those who can't help themselves. We are very much the order of people who take care of the little guy while all the other orders are paying attention to the big picture. We're like helping the towns that get caught up in the crossfire and stuff like that. So it kind of is. It's very much like a protect the little guy, watch from the shadows kind of a Batman thing. So now I like it even more. Thanks, Garrett.
Well, I was researching this because I didn't do the Hunter Order Hall. I thought this actually sounded pretty damn cool. Like it's very transparently a new thing that they pulled out as a result of the fact that they were doing order halls. But most of the lore from most Blizzard games are there because we needed a plot device to also go along with a game mechanic. So I think it just boils down to, did they succeed or not? And I find what they did with the Unseen, the Unseen Path?
Unseen Path,
to be pretty damn cool from a hunter perspective.
It was, and I mean, like when I first played through it, and thank you again to Nobble for all of these Order Hall videos, because I get to go back and like replay, air quotes, the Order Halls, which you can't actually do in games. So you get to see it again, and even seeing it again, I was getting goosebumps for the oath and stuff like that. So they did it. I mean, they nailed it, right? But it's still, I like the Batman idea. Anyway, sorry, back to the story. So basically the Unseen Path was founded after the War of the Ancients to protect the people of Azeroth by the elves. So for the most part, they remained on the Broken Isles, even though some of their leaders did leave occasionally to lend aid to the High Elves. So I can't remember exactly the name of the original leader, but I think it was Amarel's mother. And she, at one point, went over to lend aid to the very first Ranger General of Silvermoon. So there are, again, like I said, there are these one-off characters that kind of helped in different battles, but they're not big bands of hunters up until now. So True Shot Lodge was built in High Mountain, which is our order hall, and it was actually the bane of your like explore the Broken Isles quest, right? Because you couldn't actually find the last place that you had to find in High Mountain to get your achievement, and it turned out to be the Hunter Order Hall.
Yep.
So anyways, the True Shot Lodge was built up in High Mountain. A location was given to the order by whom High Mountain, who recognized the nobility of the elven cause. The lodge was completed and blessed by the eagle spirit Anahara, who is a wild god. So most of the watchers had been lost over the centuries, so the order is very small now. And those that remained sought out other hunters who would heed the call. Varisa Windrunner, who you guys probably remember, we've talked about her a lot. She's the sister of Sylvanas. Pledges the help of the Silver Covenant, and Helder on Brightwing offers the aid of the Farstriders, who are basically rangers from Silvermoon. The newest hunter to join the order, which is the player, swears an oath of service in front of the statue of Anhara, and we are the watchers in the wild, we are the eagles in the wind, we walk the lonely road, for ours is the unseen path, which is such a cool freaking oath!
Also sounds kind of vaguely like the lyrics to a Green Day song, so I'm also in on this.
It really did, right?
Maybe like take out mentions of like eagles and wild, but yeah.
But yeah, the whole Lonely Road thing, I was like, Green Day. And it was a really cool scene, too, because you're kneeling in front of the statue. You've got all these other, especially for me, because I play a Blood Elf Hunter, obviously. And so having all these other elven characters kind of surrounding you and taking your oath and everything else, it was a very goosebumpy moment.
You'll hear no protest from me. I am of the extremely biased opinion that if you're playing a hunter and you are not an elf, that you are doing it wrong.
So Anhara appears above those assembled to witness the oath, which include many races and notable names like Tarathian Court, which is another really cool character. I don't know if you ever read it, Garrett, but there is a book about Vol'jin.
Nope.
It's called Shadows of the Horde, takes place during Pandaria, and Vol'jin and Tarathian become very close friends, even though they basically hate each other's and what the other person stands for, because he is a human. He is part of the Alliance. Vol'jin obviously is part of the Horde, so they're kind of at odds at the beginning, but by the end they're besties. And the only other time that we've actually seen him in game, he was basically a character written just for the Shadows of the Horde book. The only other time we've seen him in game is at Vol'jin's funeral. So he was kind of like standing off in the background, because obviously he's a human outside the gates of Orgrimmar and liable to just get murdered. But he's kind of, you can find him, he's way off to the side up on the top of a hill. So he actually is part of the Hunter Order. He says he was basically drawn to them by the nobility of the cause of fighting against the Legion, because they made a pledge in the book where if one of them died, the other one had to avenge him. So basically, since the Legion killed Vol'jin, Tarathian has to kill the whole Legion. He's very like all or nothing. He's a pretty cool character. So anyways, the hunter sends out champions to discover who needs help in the fight against the Legion, and discovers a village in Val'shara that's in need of aid. The village is being attacked by undead hounds, as well as being harassed by Captain Taveras and his assassins. So the hunter traps Taveras and defeats him, as well as the army of hounds, before being summoned back to Trueshot Lodge. So this is Bradensbrook. I got sent there as part of my Order Hall campaign, so that's why I couldn't figure out why no one else found this super cool little, like, Worgen-esque city in the middle of Val'shara, or I guess on the edge of Val'shara. And I was like, but it's so cool! You guys, like, how did you guys not find this? Turns out I found it because I literally got pointed straight to it.
Well, there is a quest that sends you there in Val'shara, but by the time most people hit it, you are high enough to move to the next area. And
I feel like, because it's like you find a wagon on the road or something that has a quest over top of it, or like a dude next to it with a quest, and that's how it leads you down the road into Bradensbrook.
Oh, I think it's just outside the Temple of...
It's just outside the temple. But I think that's the thing, is because you get to the Temple of Elune, that's where you finish the story, that's where you fight Ysera in her corrupted form, and then you're told to go from there back to Dalaran with the Tears of Elune. So you kind of like get right up to the point where you would find Bradensbrook, and then the story of the zone ends and you're sent back to Dalaran, and you're told to pick another zone. So yeah, I can see how people missed it.
And when I found it, it's not like it advertises it as, oh hey, this looks really different than all of Val'shara, because I was thinking, oh, it's just some side quest, I'm high enough level to move on, I'm done with the Night Elf motif. But it turns out no, it's very Worgen, and there's Blackbrook Hold, which is one of the most amazing visuals I've seen in game to date.
Yeah, and it's very hidden.
Oh, but 100%, and I think it worked really well, and I'm fine with it as it is. Now doing quests and whatnot, you find it eventually, and I kind of like that it was this kind of. It was easy to
hidden
miss.
Gem.
Right, exactly. But getting back to the Hunter campaign, so more of those champions that you sent out return with news that things are much worse than originally thought. So the decision is made to pull back the scouts from the field, so the Order is in a better position to lend aid where it is most needed. Beastmaster Hilaire, which is a Valkyra in Stormheim, not a Valkyrie or a Valkyrie or a Valkyra, which are the still alive female warriors. Most of them are shield maidens, I believe.
Yes.
So this is a Valkyra over in Stormheim, who watches over her old clan from afar. She refuses to leave without her companion, who has been captured by Kirin mages, who insist that her companion, which is a large cat of some sort, insists that her companion killed one of their own, so killed a Kirin mage. Hilaire refuses to believe them, as Cora is her loyal pet that never attacks without a command. Probably killed.
Which I thought was really kind of very Hunter flavor.
Yeah, I have a bound to 5. She doesn't attack unless I hit 5. Come on. Instead, she tracks down the real culprit, which is a Fellhound, but she can't take on the Fellhound alone after being injured in a previous encounter with said demon. So the Hunter champion tracks the wounded demon to a cave, finishes it off, and brings its head to Archmage Landon, who apologizes for the mistake and sets Cora free. Hilaire is then impressed with your skills as a hunter, as well as your ability to deal with outsiders, especially when you're probably a little stinky because you play a hunter. Yeah, you probably show up.
We're not stinky.
My first name was a hunter. I was stinky. I was all the meat I was carrying.
Elf. I am never stinky.
All the raw meat I was carrying around to feed my pet, because back in my day, you had to feed your pet to keep him happy.
Yeah, see, I just go back to the lodge and somebody else feeds my pets. In fact, most of the time, I don't even bring them out to adventure with me. They just sit in the stables like big lazy asses.
Wait, hold on a sec. Are you telling me that hunters now have like a cabana boy? It's like, oh, cabana boy, please feed my tiger.
Well, there's always been stable masters. And now I'm playing as marksman, so I'm lone wolfing it. I don't even have a pet.
Anyways. Anyway, because Hilaire is so impressed, she agrees to head back to the lodge as long as you are in charge. Hilaire also warns that many of her old clan have allied with God King Scovald, jerk of the universe, and that he may be a problem in the future since he has chosen to side with the Legion.
Yes, so we now have Hilaire on our side. She becomes one of our champions of our order. And so another hunter who is going to be able to aid the Unseen Path is one of the greatest hunters of all time. And I was so stoked when we got to go and try to recruit him. We went after Rexxar. So if you guys play Hearthstone, obviously you are aware of who Rexxar is. He's a child of orcs and ogres. He is a one-time member of the original horde that came through the Dark Portal, but all of the infighting caused him to retreat into the solitude of the wilds. Basically, he was like, wow, you guys are all real big jerks. I don't want to hang out with you anymore. And then he just kind of ran away into the woods. Later, he met up with Thrall and assisted him in founding Orgrimmar, giving the orcs a home for the first time in Azeroth. And although Rexxar respected Thrall, he didn't believe that he belonged in Thrall's horde. He was content to wander the wilds of Azeroth instead. So that's kind of what he's been up to, is just wandering around, and we find him up in High Mountain. And he is aware of the Unseen Path, but he finds the Order and their charge to be dull. So
it's because he is actually Batman.
Yeah, that's exactly. Rexxar's actually
even
Batman.
Has the mask. I mean, let's be honest here.
So he basically makes the player, the new leader of the Unseen Path, prove that they can survive a night in the wild. So after getting a bunch of wood and meat, you make a campfire and you cook the meat just right, and Rexxar agrees that you have what it takes to survive. And so therefore he joins the Unseen Path to help with your cause against the Legion. When the hunter returns to the lodge with Rexxar, a sentry runs up to inform Emerald that flares once given to certain leaders of Azeroth have been lit, and they need to head to the watchtower at once. So basically, someone is calling for help.
Yeah. So upon reaching said watchtower, Emerald sounds like a drug. Emerald and the hunter discover Archmage Khadgar waiting for them. He tells the hunters that he's worried that the Legion is going to invade Dalaran. Again, I guess. He has sent out spies to try to figure out where the demons are planning to attack next, but in the meantime, he would like the Unseen Path to protect the city. The champions of the Unseen Path obviously lend their aid, because Batman, discreetly, as well as attempt to end the Legion threats around the Broken Isles. The Order then continues to protect the little guy by offering aid to their High Mountain allies, the Skyhorn, who are being invaded by Harpies. Oh joy. The best voice acting in this entire expansion.
Yes.
The Hunters provide the village with supplies to make sure that they can continue the fight against the invasion. Then the Hunter returns to the lodge to find out that the mages sent out to investigate the Legion have not returned. In order to find them, we need Huntsmane Blake and his dog Baron, the best trackers in the world. They follow the Hunter to Suramar, where Khadgar has found a scrap of a tabard that Baron should be able to use to find the missing mages.
So I love Huntsman Blake and Baron. They're so adorable. They're both like super old. Baron, when you actually find him, you have to like retrain him and like take him around and get him to dig up bones for you. And sometimes it's what you're actually looking for, and sometimes it's like an undead ghoul. And you're just like, Baron. So it was a really cute little fun quest line. So Baron is actually able to track the mages to the cliffs around Felsoul Hold, where they are surrounded by Hakar the Houndmaster's minions, who are magic-sucking fellhounds. Khadgar and the Hunter begin to attack, only to fall into a trap laid by the Houndmaster, who appears behind them. He's basically like the Legion's version of a hunter. So he's like this crazy big demonic hunter, and obviously better at hound mastering and tracking and trapping than the hunters of Azeroth. So Hakar calls off his hounds and retreats back into a portal, not before threatening to allow his hounds to devour every mage in Dalaran. So in War of the Ancients, which is where this character comes from, and I was super freaking stoked when I found out he was going to be like the enemy of the Unseen Path, because in the books he was so freaking badass. They just gave him the basic model, and it was a little bit disappointing, and Nobble talks about it in his video as well, if you guys are really interested to know without reading the whole trilogy, the descriptions of him in War of the Ancients in the books. He's basically this like flaming iron-covered skull helm wearing like giant badass of a dude. He's one of the first agents of Sargeras to come to Azeroth when Xavius and Queen Azara first made contact with him during the War of the Ancients. Hakar was basically responsible for guiding the Highborn Elves and teaching them how to make a big enough and strong enough portal to allow the rest of Sargeras and his forces to come through. So Hakar's Fellhounds were some of the first demons on Azeroth, and they were the bane of anyone who tried to oppose the Highborn because they fed on magic. And up until then, the Night Elves had mostly just been fighting with magic. So they had no way to essentially protect themselves from this threat. And it was just like, these Fellhounds were, again, described in the book as just like these terrible monstrosities, and that like one could devastate a town full of night elves and rip them to pieces and suck up all their magic. And as they would kill one night elf, they would become more and more powerful because they would be infused with the magic of the elves and then go after the next one. So the Hakar the Houndmaster and his Fellhounds were just almost unbeatable until Malfurion, who was actually the one who ended up slaying him because he controlled nature magic, which is something that the Fellhounds weren't able to feed on. So Malfurion, while protecting Tyrande, was actually able to slay Hakar by kind of communing with the elements and communing with nature, and talking about how, because he had a whip of lightning. So he was like flaunting nature's power. So Malfurion, talking to the nature spirits, got them to basically zap Hakar with lightning, and he died. So it was like Malfurion's understanding of nature, as opposed to wielding the power of nature himself, that allowed him to slay Hakar. So it was a super crazy awesome story. And then Hakar was a little bit lackluster when it came to his actual incarnation in Warcraft. But maybe he's less powerful because he died and came back. I don't know. And
there's no connection between this Hakar and the Gurubashi crazy evil Hakar boss from Zul'Gurub, right?
They're totally different. Yeah.
Okay. Because why have people the same name?
Maybe the troll guy was named after this guy. Maybe they heard of the stories of the War of the Ancients, and he was like, yes, I'm going to take up that moniker, and I'm going to be badass.
Gotcha.
Who knows?
Good to know. Good to know. So completely different Hakar. No relation.
Yes, right. So back to kind of current times. The hounds feed on almost all types of magic, so Khadgar needs the help of the Unseen Path to bring down Hakar. Because basically he's like, my mages are useless. That's all we've got to protect Dalaran. So if you guys could come with your hunter skills, we could really use them. So with the help of a warlock, Kira Iresoul, who you guys will remember from a previous episode when we covered the warlock class hall, Kira actually becomes a champion of the warlock class hall. She helps the hunter by capturing a fellhound fledgling and discovers their weaknesses. So Kira warns the hunter that these have been bred to be immune to physical attacks as well, which make them extraordinarily difficult to kill without legendary weapons. So basically, you as the leader have been able to take down some of these fellhounds because you are fighting with a legendary weapon, but there's no way you're going to be able to equip your entire order with legendary weapons, which I found kind of funny because like every actual player in my order has a legendary weapon. But yeah.
It's okay. It's okay.
But the point is that, yeah, they are immune. They learned from the War of the Ancients that, you know, there were people who could attack fellhounds in other ways than magical, and so therefore they have now bred new fellhounds that are immune to physical attacks as well.
And it's all okay because we also have a Maleficent Mana Storm. So it all works out. So in order to defeat the Houndmaster, Khadgar suggests luring the Houndmaster to a location of our choosing. And this is where Maleficent Manastorm comes in because she once created a vessel that could hold the essence of a mage like Khadgar, which they're going to use as base. So the pieces of the vessel have been scattered by her enemies. So, of course, the hunter goes out. Actually sends their champions out to find them. Because why do fetch quests on your own when you can make other people do it? Varisa wants to fight Hakar in the Violet Hold, where there will not be any collateral damage. Yeah, because there's never been collateral damage in Violet Hold. Ever. I'm surprised there's anything left of that damn place. Halduran offers the Farstrider blacksmith Kyriel, who has worked with many exotic materials in the past. Using Nightmare Oak and Azure Oil, he's able to create arrows that will penetrate the Fellhound's hide. Chandris Feathermoon, these names are ridiculous.
Chandris is actually the, air quotes, child of Tyrande and Malfurion. They adopted her after her family was killed in the War of the Ancients, so.
Well, her mom's cool. Or his mom. Is it a boy or a girl?
Girl.
Girl, okay. Her mom's cool. So Chandris also pledges the aid of the Night Elf Sentinels, including their knowledge of enchantments, and sends the hunter to Moonclaw Vale to find Lyanna Stardust, who enchants the arrows. The hunters assemble in Violet Hold, and Khadgar channels his essence into the vessel before retreating to safety in his weakened state, also known as pulling a Khadgar.
Fair. Well, he couldn't be there to fight. He would be of no use, which I very, very much enjoyed that kind of nod to the lore by saying, like, yeah, you hunters attack in a different way, and the entire mage order kind of needs help. And I liked how they called back to that as, like, fellhounds are all magic sucky. So,
well, yeah, but I mean, Khadgar, he's weakened because of the bait that they made with the vessel.
Yes, exactly. He basically put all his power into this vessel because the vessel then is supposed to bait Hakar into coming into the Violet Hold, thinking Khadgar is there alone. Surprise, he's not, because hunters.
Surprise, hunters. Surprise, multiple Batmans.
And he's not even actually there.
Very true. I'm saying that Khadgar has been useless every time he shows up. Never does anything.
But at least this time there's a lore reason for him being useless.
Fair enough.
And actually, because I know, like, I knew that you were going to say that, and if we were currently streaming live, I know Sip would be in the chat room yelling, shit wizard. Like, I know a lot of people think Khadgar has been dropping a lot of balls. But that was one thing I actually found in this Order Hall questline is Khadgar was very knowledgeable, and he didn't have all of his, like, dad jokes that he has later in the expansion for some reason. And, like, he's very serious, he's very helpful, like, he scours Suramar and finds this scrap of a tabard. Like, he's very helpful. It's just, yeah. In our Order Hall, he was like old Khadgar, how I would want Khadgar to be.
All right, fair enough. So anyway, Hakar takes the bait, and he sets his hound on the hunters, but his prized companions are slain by their leader, a.k.a. you, the player. Enraged, the Houndmaster engages with the hunter champion, only to be slain and sent back to the twisting nether, back from whence you came. So I feel like Hakar's going to show up again, and I hope he gets a unique model this time.
I hope so too, because like, man, dude, the descriptions of him are so far off from like the basic model that they used for him.
Yeah, while you were explaining, I Googled it. There's some fantastic fan art and possibly what looks like some official art. It's so damn good, I can't tell.
Well, yeah, because he was in the trading card game, the WoW TCG,
well,
and his card very much was like him, all fiery, crazy.
He looks Balrog-esque.
He really does, yeah. And then he's got, kind of his hands on the collars of 2 fellhounds, and he's so cool.
Yeah, he looks like a quadruped Balrog.
But he was just, he wasn't given his own model, and it's kind of a shame because he is so central. Like, you're talking even about the Death Knight class mount quest that we were just talking about, where you got a whole other part of the map created, so you had a place to go and explore as a Death Knight. Like, it would have been nice if they had taken the extra time and made a kind of more unique character for the hunters to fight against.
Yeah. Man, granted, it was mostly just snow, but still, in my head, it's like, oh my god, it's an undiscovered part of Northrend. I'm losing my mind, man. But whatever. So Houndmaster dead, back to the Twisting Nether, return to True Shot Lodge, and Emerald, that name trips me up, applauds your heroic actions and your ability to uphold your oath to watch and protect. She underlines again why the Unseen Path exists, to protect those who need it most without reward or recognition. And then she just gives you a bunch of AP and names you Huntmaster.
So yeah, she basically says, thank you so much for helping everyone, and without the expectation of reward or recognition of any kind. This is what hunters are all about. Here's your reward and your recognition, which just made me really laugh because
Huntmaster sounds like the lamest mid-'80s rap name. Like Huntmaster Flash, yeah. So good. But
yep, so that is the story of the Hunter Order Hall.
I dig it, man.
We didn't go to Niskara.
We did not go to Niskara, which is good. You do go to Violet Hold, though, which I would argue is equally as lame.
Yeah.
It's Violet Hold, and it's been around since Lich King, and it's not even one of the cooler parts of Lich King, in my opinion. But I'd rather go back to Wintergrasp. Apparently that's never going to happen. It makes me sad. But anyways, let's take a few emails and wrap this up. You can send your emails to fazpodcast@gmail.com. Who does our first email come to us from? As I try to complete a sentence.
This one comes to us from Yellow Flower, who says, hey guys, the topic of rating from last episode hit really close to home for me. I too am one of those people who is just bad at rating, but likes hanging out with people. Most people seem to think it's an all or nothing system when you have a good person who isn't hitting good enough numbers for progression, but I want to share my experience because I think it's part of a larger discussion that doesn't seem to happen as much as it should in the gaming world, considering how many people deal with mental health issues. The main reason I'm bad at rating is because I have bipolar disorder. The symptoms affect my gameplay ability in unexpected ways. I feel like I'm very similar to the guy who was the subject of the email. I like to joke and have a good time. I stay pretty positive and don't tend to nerd rage from dying or anything like that. And I try to contribute however I can. But one of my persistent symptoms is issues with cognitive flexibility or mentally switching from one task to another. How this manifests in raiding is that I can either get out of the poop or I can kill stuff, but I can't do both at the same time. So I tend to focus more on staying out of the poop. If the raid wipes, I'm frequently the last one standing, but my DPS is almost always the lowest. I learn my rotations, I watch the videos, I read strategies, but nothing was ever enough to overcome this particular symptom. Because of this, I avoided raiding since original Kara up until Draenor. I lucked into a guild that understood my situation, but who still enjoyed my company, so we worked out a pretty good system that involved me stepping out when they hit a difficult boss. So my suggestion would be maybe talk to the guy before deciding as an entire raid group whether or not to kick him out. Maybe he has some extenuating circumstances, and if he's contributing in every other way, maybe some kind of compromise can be worked out. I suppose there's always the possibility that he thinks he's good and is going to be super offended by the conversation, but you're going to get that by trying to kick him from the raid anyway and potentially lose another person in the process, so what's the harm in trying? My guild kind of fell apart recently, and I've pretty much stepped away from WoW since then because it's very, very hard to find a guild who doesn't see raiding as all or nothing. Even a lot of so-called casual raiding guilds don't seem to be interested in figuring out how to work with someone who can't get their numbers up. So yeah, I feel for this guy, and I hope they're able to work something out with him. Thanks, guys. Love the show. Have good vacations. So I thought this was a really good point because we didn't really talk about mental health issues that could potentially be contributing to the problem. I mean, I think there's a lot more people who have mental health issues in video gaming because it's kind of almost therapeutic in a lot of cases. They're able to, you know, create new characters in fantasy worlds that can help them get away from their issues in real life. And it's always something you should kind of have in the back of your mind. And I think this is why, and we did talk about it a little bit when we discussed the email last week, but I think just communication in general to find out if something like this applies to your raider, that's always important. Communication within raid teams is just, it's so important to have a functioning team. So I think Yellowflower has an amazing point here, and I think we also got an email like right before the show, so I didn't actually put it in, but it was a follow-up to last week. And I can't remember his name, but the person who wrote in basically said, like, thanks for the advice. We listened to the episode. We got our raid leadership together and our guild leadership together and decided we were going to put people first. And so we had a conversation with the raider. And then I think he switched classes and is now having a better time, contributing more, doing a better job, and everybody's happy.
That's awesome. I missed that. So I'm glad that came in. I'm glad that you shared it here because I did not hear about that. That's really good. And yeah, Yellowfly brings up some really, like, this is a strong, I wouldn't even say argument, but it's a strong point to make. And I don't think either of us, maybe I did, and maybe I sounded like I was shutting down the possibility of conversation. But at no point would I say, no, don't just kick them, don't talk to them. But it's
no, and I don't think that was your point. I think what your point was, we kind of made the distinction that you have to figure out as a raid leader, as a guild, as a raid team, what your priority is. Are you going to prioritize people and fun, or are you prioritizing progression? And if you're prioritizing progression, you need to make it very obvious to everyone on the team that that's what your priority is, and that's what you need to work towards as a team together. And again, that all comes from communication. So I think your point was, if you decide that you're going to focus on progression, then yes, you want to remove people from your team who are not helping you reach your end goal. But again, that all comes from communication. So I don't think you were just like, kick them.
Right. No, I was certainly not. And now too, I think whatever is stopping you from performing to a certain level, and I'm not even going to specify here because my point is, there's still probably a level of raid that works for you, whether it's mental health, whether it's just a time commitment, which is certainly where I fall. I would love to mythic raid. I don't have the time for that. I like playing Hearthstone, I like playing Heroes, and I like playing World of Warcraft. Also, the Necromancer in Diablo 3 is really awesome right now. So I split my time between many Blizzard games that bring me joy. And as much as I would love to go and have the accolade of full clearing a mythic raid, it is something that I've just written off. It's like, I just can't do that because it would take too much for me to accomplish, and it's something I can't do. So that's why I'm part of a normal raid, and on top of that, a normal raid that is, for the most part, short of giving me some shit every time I log in, cool with me not showing up both days every week. And LFR is very much a thing too, and some people look at that as like, oh, if I'm not good enough to do normal, you think I should just go do LFR as this kind of like hand wavy, this is the crappy version of raid, go do that. But I don't necessarily think so, because for a long time when I couldn't raid, I still had a small kind of tight-knit group of friends where we would run LFR together. So we would have our own social experience where we would still try to help each other improve and also still just give ourselves a couple people to talk to that aren't nameless jackasses on the internet. So I think that's a good route to go as well. I think no matter what your limitation is, whether it's mental health, whether it's time commitment, whether it is just for whatever reason you can't get better, I do think that there are people out there that just can't get good at this type of game for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. There are lower level of difficulties of raiding for everyone, and I think LFR at this point is so accessible that there's really no reason someone can't go raid, can't go get tier sets, get tier bonuses, and see all of the content that World of Warcraft has to offer.
Well, and you made a good point about taking a group into LFR, and that's what I was going to say. You know, even if you don't measure up to like the heal or DPS standards that you need to in order to do something like normal or heroic, then you can always create a very casual, friendly guild who runs LFR as their raid team. You know, like if you get a full raid team in there, then you don't even have to deal with other people, right? Like you can fill LFR with all your own party. And you can also, even if you just have, 10 or 15 people, you can always just go in there as a group and then have your own chat and do your own thing. And yeah, you'll have a bunch of people kind of like hangers on who aren't actually in your group, but you have a separate party chat, so you don't need to talk to any of them. And you can have your own experience within the LFR difficulty. It's absolutely doable. So there's lots and lots of options. And I mean, I'm glad that Yellowflower kind of wrote in and gave us another perspective, something we didn't think of last week. And yeah, I really hope that she finds some sort of casual group that she can jump into and that will understand her situation. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's still so many darn people playing this game that I'm sure if you wanted to put the time in, that you could find a group of people that are right for you and that you're going to enjoy your time with. But whatever the case is, I hope you come back to WoW.
Yes.
it's a good place to be right now. All right, moving on to our final email and bit for this episode. Carrie writes in and says, "Hello, friends." Oh, thank you. First, I want to say that I say friends because I really feel connected to your podcast, and I want to thank you for it. Oh, thank you again. I've been playing since Wrath, but just got into both the lore and raiding this expansion, and your podcast is right at my level. My raid team and I play a Paladin or Blood TK on is always within a week of your progress, though I'm not a member of the Savage Unwashed Horde for the Alliance. Anyway, here's my talking point. The hallmark of a great expansion is having a great villain, someone who terrifies and threatens us for a long time. This is one of the things that made Wrath great, the greatest bad guy of all time. Oh, Carrie, you're really pandering here. Up till the near future, all the bad guys have been characters who have been known and named in the lore for a long time. Illidan, Arthas, Deathwing, Garrosh / bits of Yashiraj, Archimond, and now in Legion, we've had Xavius, Helya, Gul'dan, Kil'jaeden, and soon, spoilers, August. Yes, the month of August is coming to kick our asses. Argus, Agramar, Sargeras, and the Legion will all be taken care of. Finally, next expansion, we will almost certainly get to add N'Zoth to that list of names. So, who is left for the expansion after next? I'm struggling to think of a named bad guy we won't have already taken down. Yes, I know that the whole Void and the Void Lords are out there and are the greatest threat we've faced yet. But I think for them to be scary enough, again, think Lich King. Garrett, I know you already were. You damn right I was. It's good if they are introduced to the story, at least in an expansion in advance. Reading through Chronicles, I think we've checked all the big names off the list. Maybe Wrathion will be back with some new scheme, or Bolvar will be overtaken by the corruption. In any case, I hope we start getting hints soon so the fear can start growing. Interested to hear what you think, and thanks for all you do and all of my favorite podcasts. Thanks again, Carrie. A couple of things, like I want to push up my nerd glasses for a moment and say that one of the reasons I have some hope is because in the list of known characters that you listed here, you have Garrosh in there, and Garrosh is 100% a product of World of Warcraft. Garrosh did not exist. He did not come through Warcraft 3 or any of the prior games or lore, really. Yes, he's the son of Grom, but this was something that we got to see build up from Lich King forward, basically, or even Burning Crusade is where you find Garrosh. Because
first find him, yeah.
I always make the joke because when he was a raid boss and basically Orc Hitler, I was always making the joke like, "Oh, Garrosh, I remember when I found you crying into a campfire over your grandmother."
Yep.
yeah.
And that's a very, very good point to make, is that, Garrosh, we got to see him through the course of expansions, which I think is what Carrie is talking about, basically, is that, who do we think from now could potentially be not the next expansion, because we're pretty sure that's going to be N'Zoth and the Old Gods, but what's coming after that, because, we have kind of dealt with all of the big characters from the lore as we currently know it, but Garrosh wasn't a known factor, right? So, we saw him grow, and we saw the things that happened to him, and the things that kind of corrupted his mind, I guess is the best way to put what happened to Garrosh. So there's lots and lots of different ways that they could potentially go with characters. I mean, obviously, Jaina is someone who should be kind of like on the edge of your mind, I think, because we're not exactly sure what's going to happen to her. But what we do know is that she is one of, if not the most powerful mage alive. So the idea of her turning evil, whether that's through, I think she's primed for N'Zoth's corruption, but maybe we don't deal with her next expansion. Maybe Jaina is the fallout of us defeating N'Zoth. Like, the way that the old gods work is, it's not like some sort of actual like disease or anything that if you like kill N'Zoth, it's going to go away. They whisper things in your mind, and they kind of warp your way of thinking. So if her way of thinking gets warped, she might be, on his side. And then, the death of N'Zoth could potentially like throw her over the edge. Maybe he's the only one who's listening to her right now as she is really upset about everything that's happening with the Horde. And she's just totally doesn't care what happens to Azeroth now. And she's sitting there having conversations with an old god, basically. And then so when he falls in the next expansion, I'm assuming that he will, because we always win, because that's the way the game works. But I'm assuming that like maybe that's just the thing that brings up this big bad, and we have a kind of magic-fueled expansion with Jaina as the big bad that we have to defeat. I think that could be super cool. I think there's something, you also mentioned Bolvar. I think that's totally an option. I don't really know where he's at. Like, Garrett can probably speak to that a little bit more. The big thing more Death Knight experience.
The big thing with Bolvar for me is I don't know how obviously that's a thread that needs to be pulled at some point. I just don't know if we were to do an expansion where Bolvar is the villain, basically the Lich King is once again the villain. How do we do that and make it seem fresh? So do we go back to Northrend? Exactly. Is Northrend vastly... Do we have Cataclysm for Northrend? Is that what happens? Does it get changed dramatically so that it is fresh again? You will hear no protests from me.
Yeah, I kind of hope they don't do that, though, because, I mean, that's going to have, like, shades of Warlords of Draenor, right? Like, we had Outland, and then we traveled to a different timeline, and then we got Draenor, but it was essentially, like, the same sort of areas. It was the same sort of themes, and it didn't feel fresh. Yeah,
I think Northrend's varied enough, but the thing is we've already done it, so they would have to swap it up. For me, Draenor was just too one note. It was just orc.
Yeah.
Orcs. Oh, hey, orcs. By the way, orcs.
Orcs in the jungle. Orcs in the snow.
Orcs are everywhere you want to go. Well, because it sounded like you were rhyming. I don't know. Hope you like brown. Hope you like bones. Because that's the only thing that orcs seem to know.
There you go. See, this is why you're the rap star, Garrett.
I do one thing, and that's all anyone wants to talk about this week. It's okay. I'm flattered.
But yeah, so I mean, there could be something with Bolvar, but then I think they run the risk of being potentially derivative of Wrath of the Lich King, and they probably don't want to do that because Warlords of Draenor was not well received. I think they'd be more open to that option had Warlords of Draenor been successful, because then they could be like, oh yeah, we can go back and revisit the same areas in a different way, and people will be happy with it. But I think they're probably not looking forward to doing that anymore, at least in the near future. So yeah. I think Jaina could be a super cool big bad for an expansion. Something very like magic focused, mystical. Maybe she has some blue dragons on her side, who are pissed off that Malygos is gone. I was always a little bit sad with the treatment of Malygos, because I felt like that could have been an expansion in and of itself. The whole idea of the blue dragons saying like, all right, you guys, you mortal races don't know what you're doing with magic. Like, that could have been a whole expansion on its own, I think. So maybe we'll see them take that idea and give it to Jaina and have some really cool stuff going on there. That's potentially my guess. Although I think Raytheon is also a really, could be. I mean, just because you would think he would be here now saying I told you so, and we haven't seen him at all. So they've said that he's up to something, but that's all that they've said about him in this expansion. So yeah. He is a named character that there could potentially still be some stuff going on there. But other than that, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not. You haven't mentioned Sylvanas yet, and I think it's just because you're biased. But Sylvanas is definitely on the meter.
You think so?
100. She's on the villain spectrum. 100%.
Yeah, I think she's. I get what you're saying but again, yeah, I don't know. I do see how she potentially, and maybe so. Let's talk about Sylvanas. Maybe this is going to be the next expansion after Azeroth. Maybe we have dealt with all of the super big, like, bad threats to Azeroth, and everyone's like, huzzah, yay, we defeated N'Zoth, we defeated the Void Lords that were controlling him, because now we've proven we have space travel, so if we can get to Argus, we can probably get to wherever the Void Lords are, so let's just do this. But maybe with all of the big bad threats removed, it creates some sort of a power vacuum. And then we have people on the side of the Horde, like Sylvanas, and we have people on the side of the Alliance, like Greymane, who essentially rise up into that position of power, and we get a Alliance versus Horde, like, PvP-centric. There's nothing else for us to fight, so therefore we start fighting each other. Maybe that's the way they go with it, is just one big giant Alliance versus Horde, like Warcraft 4. Like, I don't know, like some sort of giant war between the Alliance and the Horde that they kind of hinted at with Garrosh, and then we never got that payoff. So maybe it's time for an Alliance versus Horde throwdown.
I think it's time for a villain born of the Alliance. We had Garrosh, something, whether it's Jaina, whether it's Greymane, who knows. I don't know. I could see Greymane maybe chilling out once Anduin actually starts, I don't know, leading.
Mm-hmm. Which he seems to be ready to do now with the stuff that we saw in 7.2. So I think Anduin is kind of like coming into his own when it comes to being a leader and dealing with the death of his father and everything else. So I have high hopes for Anduin going forward.
Yeah, no, I think Anduin's that's a story I'm really looking forward to see play out, and is making me direly want to get back to the Alliance and see that kind of stuff again. Especially, I'm assuming in the next expansion that you're going to be hammering home a lot of the Anduin stuff. So I would like to see that from the Alliance side. Mm-hmm. But we'll have to see. I'm not sure. There could also just be someone that we're missing entirely. Who knows? The idea of Sylvanas somehow becoming the Lich Queen in any way, shape, or form excites me. I would that would be the best for me. Is they just like, you know what? Bolvar's just not that interesting. We want to bring the Lich King back, but we're going to kick that expansion off with Sylvanas just kills Bolvar and takes the damn helm. That would be really cool to me.
It could be really cool, and I am a huge Sylvanas fangirl, so part of me just doesn't want to see her kind of go the way that everyone is saying she's going to go. Like, there are so many people who are like, boo Sylvanas, I hate Sylvanas, she's so evil, blah, 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 blah. Like, I don't want to give them satisfaction. Like, I would rather she remained this, like, I think she's more interesting as a good guy with bad tendencies than she would be as just a straight up bad guy, personally.
I mean, I'm in the camp of she's, let me actually think about this for a second. Yeah, no, I'm okay with it. She's my second favorite character in the history of Warcraft. So obviously I'm just like, yeah, let's just make her my favorite character, which is the Lich King. Let's just take it. Let's complete the circle. Also, I think it would be Star Wars poetic, just be, for her to eventually rise to that throne. But who knows? We're really not sure. There could be something we're missing entirely. There's definitely still some stuff out there. The dragons in general, I mean, there's not very many of them left, and who knows where that could push any of the remaining dragon flights. And you can always bring people back. It's Warcraft. It happens. They could resurrect Malagos. Who knows?
Well, and there are still quite a lot of bronze dragons, right? So, I mean, there could be something there, too, with, like, the time ways and everything else. Like, I mean, we talked so much because there's been so much War of the Ancients stuff in this expansion, kind of fallout from it and more information from it, bad guys coming back from it. War of the Ancients has been quite central. So, and obviously because that's the last time Azeroth fought the Legion on Azeroth. So I feel like maybe there's something there too. Maybe there could be some Bronze Dragon shenanigans, kind of like what happened in the books of War of the Ancients, where the Bronze Dragon sent back 3 champions in Ronin, Broxigar, and Crassus. The 3 of them all got sent back in time to kind of make sure that the War of the Ancients played out the way it was supposed to and that the Legion was defeated. So maybe that's something that we see happen in game. And we get sent back to some crazy big point in time. We could get sent back to the War of the Ancients. We could get sent back to the Black Empire. We could it could be the way we deal with the next expansion with N'Zoth, is we get sent back to when the old gods were actually all on Azeroth and we get to fight in the War of the Black Empire. Who knows? But then there's also like a whole bunch of troll stuff and troll rebellions. We haven't seen the trolls haven't played a very big kind of role all on their own in an expansion. They've always been like little pieces of troll stuff here and there, but maybe we go back and, see all the fighting trolls, and I don't know, but there might be some bronze dragon back in time stuff.
Yeah,
this is my timey-wimey hands.
That and back in time, or just anything with dragons in general, because I think their backs are very much against the wall. In terms of their survival, so who knows where that could push them. There's so many different things to talk about. So I'll just say let's stop here, because I'm sure we'll talk about it more in the future.
I know we could go on and on and on, or at least I could go on and on and on and on.
Yeah, but everything I think we kind of batted around here, I would be very interested in going down those different paths. So there are definitely places to go, and I'm excited to go there. All I'm hearing is I'm going to play World of Warcraft till I die, apparently.
Yep.
Until I die, or I don't know, until something really unfortunate happens to all their servers, and they're just like, damn, it's not really worth it to fix all this. I guess it's over. But that's going to wrap it up for this episode. Thank you for the emails, everyone. Very thought-provoking, some really great points. Talk to your raiders at the end of the day. Talk to your raiders before kicking them. Continue sending those emails in. fazpodcast@gmail.com is the place to do so. At Faz Podcast is also the Twitter account that you can follow. So anyways, like we said, we'll probably be recording this on Fridays. We didn't do it live this week because XSplit cannot connect to Twitch for some reason. So we just did a local recording. So if you're one of our hardcore faithful that are usually hanging out in the chat room, that is what happened. Sorry about that. But expect Friday posts for at least the next couple of months. Other than that, Jocelyn, where can folks find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Twitch at Joss Plays. I'm also live on AMove TV every Wednesday night for my general gaming podcast called The Gamers In. You can also find links to everything that I do over at jossplays.com.
You can find me on Twitter at Garrett Art, and every podcast I do over at amove.tv, including Embrace the Spoilers with Jocelyn and I as well, which we're recording on Mondays, where we are currently spoiling the new season of Game of Thrones, moving on to a few of the final, apparently crappy movies of summer, and wrapping it all up with Indiana Jones spoilers. So go look for Embrace the Spoilers anywhere podcasts can be found, and enjoy that. That's going to wrap it up for this week's episode. Thank you all for listening, and until next time, good luck and have fun.